Hello, everyone, and welcome to another production meeting. It is Saturday morning,
Woo!
and no cartoons are on.
No,
Ugh, that
only
makes
the
me
ones
sad.
on the screen right now.
The tunes. How's everybody this week? We're down one member, but
Again,
I'm sure
he
she's sleeping.
he. I can confirm that he's not dead. At least not last night because I was working with him. Um, dude, I think all I did this week was I watched Scream, and then I don't think I watched anything. I just like mowed through Kana Bridge of Spirits and platinumed that. So I played through it twice in order to do so. And mini review for that. The first playthrough, I for the first like hour, I said, yeah, it's fine. I told you guys, yeah, it's a solid game. You know, it's not crazy good, but and then as I played more and more and more, I was like, man, I'm just having fun with this. Just having a lot of fun with this. They implement things like stasis grenades, energy like bow and arrows and stuff like that. It's not anything that's been too like original, but like the way that they present the game, it's just awesome. And it's an indie game, so I'm like, kudos on how well and crisp it came out. So a very very solid 8 out of 10 for me for that one. I very much recommend it. Probably around the $20 price range, because it only takes about 6-ish hours to complete one way, or one time through. So, yeah, it's pretty good game. I knew it was gonna be good, but I didn't expect it to be that good. I almost kind of hated the game because the at the end of my second playthrough, because I played it on the most challenging one because I needed to do that to acquire the platinum, and I was about to throw my controller. It was so difficult, but I was like, I finally did it. I was like, it's so unnecessarily hard, but I did it, and so yeah, I just played like I would play like 6 hours a day of that, like constantly, like this whole week. So I got through that, and that took up all of my time. Oh, and then I obviously, I watched the most recent Demon Slayer episode, which I keep hating myself for doing because they're absolutely beautiful, and I can't. They keep leaving you on cliffhanger after cliffhanger, and I'm like, stop making these so interesting. I can't wait 2 to 3 months for all of these, or even probably even longer, if it's like 30 plus episodes. I can't wait to just binge them all. I have to keep up like a chump. So, but yeah, I don't think I did anything else.
Alex,
Somebody,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
How was didn't crack the top 10 at the box office last weekend? Queen Latifah, Dennis Quaid starring The Tiger
Oh,
Rising.
oh yes. Thank you for reminding me.
That masterpiece that didn't make $1 million.
Yeah,
What?
right.
He said, having seen King's Daughter last week, which I think did just as badly.
Right. So I had no interest in King's Daughter, but I was telling Ryan specifically that because like tigers are my favorite animal. I got a soft spot for them. If I see them in something, I kind of, I gravitate towards it. So at the end of one of these previous nights, when I finished working, I kind of threw it on for myself. And I made it about an hour through before I wasn't like, this isn't, there are plenty worse films. I think it's super super bland. And I looked it up, and I'm gonna say spoilers right here. Apparently it's based on a book too, that at the end of the movie they release the tiger, starts running around, and then apparently the main character's father shoots the tiger. And I'm like, and I had to look that up because I was like, if that happens, I'm leaving. Like if the tiger dies, I'm leaving. So I look it up, and it happens, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I told Ryan, it's like drinking the most tappest of tap water, like at room temperature, like as room temperature can be, like all day, starving yourself, and then learning like an hour away from dinner that you're about to have like liver. And I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm out. I'm so out. So I watched a little over half of it, and yeah, it's weird to have big names like Queen Latifah and Dennis Quaid in there, because I almost can't say that they don't do anything because kind of nobody does anything. And I kind of went flip flop on the kid actors. There's two of them. There's I don't even know their names. I can't remember their characters' names, but there's the girl, she like at times I would think, okay, she's acting pretty good or pretty well. And and then other times I'm like, oh my gosh, you can just tell that she's really new to acting. Like she keeps like emoting and doing this and like, why won't you tell me some blah blah blah. And I'm like, this girl is irritating. And it got too much. Like I started noticing it more and more. So it's an NA for me, because I don't want to give it a rating because I don't care about it enough to do so, and then two, I didn't complete it, so that's even more reason why I shouldn't. So thank you for recalling that, Ryan. I almost forgot that for a whole day.
And that should tell you exactly how it is if you didn't remember it.
Yeah. So, but Ryan, what did you do? You probably did a lot more than me.
I did a couple mores than you. I finished The House on Netflix. I think I'm done with Netflix originals this year based off of the first one that I watched. I'm not going to go through Netflix originals. In fact, I think we're just canceling Netflix until December because that's when all the Oscar movies come out, apparently. Or until Stranger Things, whenever that happens. But this is a 3-part stop motion animation thriller. I think it's listed as a series, but it's an hour 48 minutes because it's all strung together. So I don't know if it's a show or if it's a movie, and it's an anthology movie. It's not terrible. If you want like Wes Anderson on really depressing drugs, then it's a perfect cup of tea for you. I didn't really find it that interesting. It was kind of trying to be weirder than it had answers for being weird. So it was like, we're gonna do this and end like this because weird, odd, making you think. And I'm like, okay, but nothing means anything. And I spent 20 minutes watching this, or 40 minutes watching this episode, and nothing happened. So it's not bad. I did enjoy some of the stylish choices. And if you can get past, like if you watch it and you like the first bit, the second two are better. So it's not terrible. I think it's a 6. I'll give it a point for quality, because it's not every day you find just like a full 3-part stop motion animation film that someone got to put a lot of work into that you never heard of. But I don't think you need to go out of your way to watch it unless you're looking for something just weird to watch on Netflix. And the third film is even just about like drugs. So leave the kids at home.
It's got a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes.
It does. Is that critics or audiences?
I don't know. This is just what Google says on whenever you search.
That's
tomato meter 96, average audience score 70.
Okay, the 70 is about right. It's got a 7.0 on IMDb. It feels more like a 70. It's not bad. It's just I think it's more too really thinking big words. It's trying too hard. So I finished The Tragedy of Macbeth. I owe it a point back. Denzel Washington just commands that finale. I actually really enjoyed. I almost want to go back and give the whole thing another watch. I popped on Orson Welles also, so I would talk about these Macbeths, and it is very Orson Welles Macbeth, just as I thought. So if you want to watch one of the 2 Macbeths and you want a classic feel, you can't go wrong with this or that one. But gosh, Denzel Washington just owns that third act. I loved him. I loved seeing a very arrogant performance from him. So really, really strong finale. So I'm going to bump it up to hey, maybe check this out.
Is it Oscar worthy, Ryan?
Macbeth, Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
It's a stacked year for a lot of character actors who did great work in films that didn't receive big wide releases. So assuming that there's only 2 spots left, because Denzel Washington, Benedict Cumberbatch, Andrew Garfield, and Will Smith should and will be nominated. It's tough to say because you've still got, Leo DiCaprio has some buzz, Peter Dinklage has buzz, Cooper from Licorice Pizza.
Oh, that new kid.
Yes, is gotten some acclaim. But I think of the performances that I've seen this year, assuming that Nicolas Cage won't get nominated because the movie wasn't big enough really for Pig, then I would say Denzel Washington should absolutely be in there. I think Nicolas Cage is probably the best performance of his career, including his Oscar win. But Denzel Washington definitely should be up there. He really makes that movie. If not the fact that he makes that movie. His performance is so good that I stand behind what I said, that Frances McDormand is just a forgettable Lady Macbeth. So I'll get through the next two really quickly because there's no point in talking about them. I finished Tow Truck Transylvania 3.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
Wait, three or four?
4. Wait. Yeah, 4. Gosh, we're on 4 of these. I found out that Ice Age 6 came out this weekend, and I didn't know 5 existed.
I didn't know anything after 1 existed.
But yeah, House of Transylvania 3 is bad. I've never missed Adam Sandler so much. 4. Gosh darn it. But see, I don't like 3 either. They're all just a step down. It's like 6, 5, 4, 3. Yeah. So not good. You don't need to watch it. And then we saw Redeeming Love, which you guys didn't get, I don't think, because it's not a huge release. Opened number 5 at the box office, but it played at number 4 per theater, outgrossing Sing 2 per theater. Gosh, that's bad when I'm confusing Sing and Scream. And it's kind of based on a Christian book, or it is, but it isn't, because it takes a lot of liberties. Apparently, critics hate it, audiences seem to really like it. So we thought we'd check it out. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, which for like a really simple romance is pretty long.
Yeah.
I wanted to go into this with some redeeming love for myself to give it, and it's just a complete mess. I don't recommend it. I mean, I think there's an audience out there who will go into this not be focused on how films work and like it, and that's read the book. I mean,
yeah,
if you can go into it because you like the book and you can get that much out of it, I think that you'll be disappointed in some things, but I think there's some enjoyment to be had, and I can see why. But when you're making sacrifices making this movie, I mean, like the main guy is the most bland, forgettable character, and we spent 2 hours and 10 minutes with him, and in the end, the only thing I could name about him, the only like defining trait I could name about him is that he's got a quick temper, which I don't think was intentional. So there's just so many missed opportunities in this movie. It's got a good score, actually. That's the one thing I'll note about it. I don't know why this movie has a good score. I didn't expect it, but it's not very good. I don't think it's a need to go see, even with it outgrossing the other new movies last week. And I watched Screams 2, 3, and 4, which I don't recommend watching back to back to back. Because I can't even tell what happens in 3 and 4. I can't separate them. I'm sure these movies aren't as bad as I'm making them out to be. I didn't really care about any of these movies. 2, 4, 3. Alex, you said 3 is terrible. I don't disagree with you, but I didn't care one way or the other. Now watching this one, I think 3 it does miss the mark the most, which I think you're going to disagree with because of this one. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later. I don't think 2, 3, and 4 are necessary to watch. I'm glad I watched them because 5 does have some little callbacks and connections. And if I ever find a pack of all 5 of these, pretty cheap. But just wanted to. That's how much homework I did. I watched 4 movies for today, just to talk about Scream 5.
Clint,
3 movies.
What did you do? Did you rewatch Macbeth?
No. Macbeth is released every like few years, and that's about as long as it takes for me to recoup from the last one that I watched. Because Macbeth is very heavy. Very heavy. No, I watched
full Macbeth.
Right.
Watch 4 Macbeths like I did. I dream in Shakespeare.
I watched Love, Death, and Robots. I finished Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. It's interesting, to say the least. There are some very strong episodes that come out of it. There's some very weird episodes that come out of that. And for our audience that doesn't know, Love, Death, and Robots is just like combined like 26 shorts, maybe about 10 to 20 minutes long. They're all animated. Some of the animation is amazing. And then some of them are just kind of okay. There are some interesting episodes, like I was saying. All in all, I'd probably give it like a 7.5. It was pretty good. Very graphic, so it's not for children. Don't watch.
I feel like I remember my friend Trustin saying talking to me about this. He goes, dude, you have to check it out. You have to check it out. And that's when I thought it was just one animation style. So.
No, yeah, there are multiple different animation styles, and multiple different types of like stories, to be honest with you. Like there's like there's a couple of like crime ones. There's like one that I thought was really interesting that I just watched a couple days ago, was this like, it was almost like this Chinese lore kind of turned into like a sci-fi almost, where it's like it's about this kid who finds like a Chinese mythical creature, and it's kind of at the turn of the century where everything's starting to like, he goes to Hong Kong and like the machines are coming and like all this other stuff, and he befriends this mythical creature, and he moves to Hong Kong and everything starts to become steampunk, but it's more about how like England has come into like China and like tried to take over, and it's about how he inflicts his brand of justice against the colonizers, and it was really interesting, even though the episode's only like, it was only like 15 minutes long, maybe a little less, but I do credit this, each one of these episodes is grabbing you really quickly and throwing you into this world, and it changes, like each world changes every episode obviously, but each one of them does a great job of like pulling you into their world and giving you enough information to make it interesting instead of just like, what is this? So it's kind of neat. And then I finished The Witcher season 2, and I did want to talk to you, Ryan, about this because I read your review, and I do agree with you. I think this season is not a step down from the first season, but it's not, they don't make this one better than the first season.
Yeah.
And without reading the books, yes, this season is very heavy into its lore. And you kind of have to know what they're talking about for you to kind of get it. And like we've said this, and I know that I've said this a few times with a lot of reviews this year, context. There is literally no context when it comes to some of these conversations that he has throughout this season. And I think Game of Thrones did a better job of leaving out that because if like Game of Thrones, if it was going way off the rails, they were like, okay, let's pull this back and kind of make this more sense for like the general viewer, where this is like, if you're not a Witcher fan and if you haven't played the games or if you haven't read the books, you're probably going to be a little lost with what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I'll say I watched season 2 with my wife and her brother, and both of them have read most of the Witcher books. And every once in a while they'd look at each other and be like, do you remember that? No. And I'd be like, great, now you guys are confused, which means I'm extra confused.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yes, Henry Cavill does a great job as the Witcher, as Geralt. You know, the cast is done really well. The special effects are done really well. It's just like, if you don't do a little research on like what they're talking about, you're probably going to be a little lost. Because it's not like hints and nods to like stuff that's happening in the books. It's like full-fledged conversations of stuff that you should know while you're watching this episode, like this season. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. Are we ready for the news? Because we actually got a lot of this to go through.
Are we ever?
Yes, we are.
Are we?
Yay. So go ahead.
I was gonna say I watched Boba Fett. I completely forgot I watched Boba Fett. Let's move on.
I watched Boba Fett. Did you enjoy it?
No, everyone did. Everyone loved this episode. This last episode, I had to watch both because I forgot last week's. Because I forgot. And we watched both, and I won't spoil it because like the existence of this episode does like give away something big. But like everyone loved this episode, and I was like, but what are we watching right now? I get it, but and I think I saw Matt make a joke about it, and I'm just like, this would be fine. I didn't even think it was that great anyway, but this would have been fine in its own context, let alone the fact
Right.
that this show is so insignificant that we're spending an entire episode not in the show we're watching. Plus, let's just jam. I made fun of Force Awakens for this, but I've got to shift that complaint to this for let's jam the most Star Wars references we can into one thing. In 40 minutes, it made me take away my 2-hour complaint for Star Wars Force Awakens because they're like, "What's this poll? I don't know. Is it useful?" And I'm like, "Yep, it's the poll that we held the trash compactor open with." Who cares?
I told you.
I still haven't watched any
Now,
of it.
Don't.
I don't think you need to.
No,
Oh,
you really don't. You'll probably need to watch like the last few episodes, probably because it has some sort of significance within the Star Wars universe that is going on. And I'll just spoil it for you when it happens. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the
Why would you
thing about I will defend this episode because it is literally the best episode, no matter how good the episode actually is. But it is the best episode of this series because, like I've said before last week, the beginning 4 episodes, this is the 5th episode, right? Yeah. So the beginning 4 episodes, you're literally in flashback where this is now progressing a story forward. It's just not Boba Fett's story. And you're like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like you said, we have like a whole episode of, I'm just going to spoil it for you, Ryan, or Alex.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Mando.
Oh.
It's a whole episode of Mando and like what happens after his season ends and how he gets back to Tatooine for some reason. Now, I will say that this episode does have a really kind of a lot of cool winks and nods to different, like multiple different things of Star Wars. Like BD is there. And now I'm kind of curious on like how he got from Cassius to Tatooine and where
like from Fallen Order?
Yeah. So the droid is now in Tatooine with the lady that builds all that stuff on Tatooine. So now he's there. And so now I'm kind of curious on like how he got there. Because last time I remember he was still with, right? That's his name, like Cassius, right? Or something like that.
How did BD get to Tatooine? Let's make a whole show about it.
Yeah, probably.
It would be better.
Probably. And then he gets a Nubian starfighter, so that's kind of cool. It's kind of like hints back to the original or the prequel trilogy. So yeah, but like I said in my post, I still think that she needs her own Star Wars movie.
I do agree with
Dallas Howard,
that, yeah.
she's made arguably the best episodes of any of these seasons, and they're more. She somehow finds a way to like make these emotionally like relevant. Each one of her episodes has the emotion that goes along with it. So anyway, moving on. We're going to start with some gaming news. WB Games has assured that Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights will be released this year.
Yeah. Who knows if that's true? They're just saying it now. I'm at this point almost thinking, is it even a good thing that they do come out this year? Like, I mean, I get it. We'll get them obviously earlier, but one of the founding fathers of Nintendo, well, not founding fathers, but like the key creator in Mario and Zelda and Star Fox, Shigeru Miyamoto, he's quoted for saying like, once a game is out there, it's out there, like good or bad. So make sure that you're doing, your due diligence and making sure that it's, of the quality that at least you set it out to be. So if you're rushing to make a deadline and being more quantity over quality, sorry, couldn't think there for a second, then you're, it's out. It's like, what was that game that came out a couple of years ago that I have? Cyberpunk. Yeah. Yeah. Now, see, the thing about that one is that one should have come out, but that's because that had been in development for over 10 years. 10 years. And this is what we got. So that's more of those guys somebody else should have been making it, not we rushed it out too quick. 10 years to make a video game? Are you kidding me? They made God of War. Now, granted, God of War took, I think, 4 to 5 years to complete, like from inception to going gold. And that's like rated as at least one of PS4's like greatest game, if not one of the greatest games of all time. So I'm like, in the right hands, things can happen in, a reasonable amount of time. 10 years was way too long. So that needed to come out. Warner Brothers, I would say, don't rush it. You might have pressure. Don't give into it. Once a bad game's out there, it's out there. And you can only do so much to redeem it.
Well,
yeah.
To make an argument, though, I think that the most pressure that they're going to have is on Hogwarts Legacy.
Yes. Oh, assuredly, I think.
Because, I mean, with Gotham Knights, yeah, I mean, you have, some diehard Batman fans, especially the Arkham series, because, I mean, with the Batman games that came out before Asylum was just horrible. They were horrendously done and just didn't make any sense. But I believe that in the gaming world with Hogwarts is probably going to have a little bit more pressure due to the fan base. Whereas like Gotham, like I said, Gotham Knights is just, it comes out, it's going to come out. And if it's bad, it's like, okay, well, Gotham Knight, they're just going to check it off and be like, okay, well, this one was a failure.
Oh, 100% agreed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if Hogwarts Legacy comes out and it's bad, a lot of diehard Harry Potter fans are going to be like picketing and like.
Right, and I think a lot more focus is on that because I mean Batman's popular, like you said, like there's obviously a fan base, but I think more so like it's weird things like I don't, if you go on like Hot Topic, Box Lunch, all these places where you can get kind of like novelty, anime, TV show kind of paraphernalia, memorabilia, whatever. You're gonna see things like Friends, The Office, and Harry Potter's everywhere. You don't see Batman necessarily quite on that scale, so they know that it has a massive fan base. And it's a RPG where you can create your own character, so you can essentially be in the Harry Potter world. So that has it can't be overstated how much hype there is around that and what expectations would be. So I think production is going way more into that. Batman. I'm sure Batman's getting all the love it needs, and everything, but I think they're like, if one of these has to succeed, like if only one of these can succeed, it's got to be Harry Potter. It's got to be Harry Potter. So that's why I'm all like, don't try to make a deadline just to make a deadline. Like if you fully believe that you under your right production circumstances can make that happen in this year, then by all means do it, but don't rush it just because you need to make the fiscal year yada yada yada.
Right.
Like don't be like that. So
all right, well, next up, more gaming news. Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West has reached gold this week. Alex, can you please explain what that means for our viewers and me, apparently?
Oh, I mean, that essentially means editing done, all the minor tweaks and everything, gameplay mechanics, everything, not cinematography, cutscene. Well, I guess you could say cinematography.
Cinematics.
Yeah. Thank you. It's all done. Like it's like what they have right there. That's what the gamers will be playing. So Elden Ring going gold. Usually it happens around a month and a half, maybe 2 months before it actually is supposed to release. That's usually when it goes gold. And that's not uncommon. That's like Ghost of Tsushima, I think, went gold about a month before it actually released. It's like, it's not like surprising news, obviously, because both of these games are coming out in February. Elden Ring is more or less like a Dark Souls kind of game, so I'm probably not gonna endeavor too much into that. But I know a lot of people who are excited about that. When I saw the first trailer, I saw, yeah. Oh, Ryan, you're excited for
I'm
it?
excited
Mine
about
is-
both. I've been playing Horizon, and so I don't think I'm halfway through it, so I'm not ready for that. And then I'm like, oh, I've got a new Horizon game and a George R.R. Martin game coming out.
You're like,
So
oh dang, like all the movies and shows I've had to kind of put on the back burner. Is there a fifth and sixth burner that I can put them on?
no, I'll be honest. Like with the movies that are coming out, I'm gonna play some games in March.
Cool, good to hear. I
The
know.
Batman?
Yeah, I know, right? The Batman.
I do have to set aside 3 hours for that.
I know we should write a petition. Give us the
4-hour cut.
Give us the
Please.
read cut.
You guys are jumping ahead of me.
But anyway,
not back to that.
not to skip to that. Yeah, going gold. That just means that basically the game is done. What they've done, like they finished, and what that is that's what the version that the gamers are gonna get. So yay! Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay! All right, well, let's move on. Some TV news. James Gunn has hinted at another potential Suicide Squad spinoff due to the success of Peacemaker. Apparently, Peacemaker is streaming very well. I've watched the first 4 episodes. 5th episode came out Thursday that I haven't got a chance to watch. I highly recommend it. If you had any type of like positive feelings about his version of the Suicide Squad, I'd definitely check this out. It is.
I read that it's like the #1 show right now. I forget where I read that article, but just views alone, it says it's at least in the top handful.
Yes.
So and everybody I've talked to about that has said that they said, have you watched it yet? I said, no, I'm kind of waiting for all of them to come out. They said, oh yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Like, they're not like, it's not like Boba Fett. Like, they're like, here and there, it's kind of okay. They're like, no, every episode's pretty good, surprisingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd suggest it. If you're waiting for like the whole season, I believe there's 8 episodes, so you got about 3 more weeks left. I think that's what I read, that there was like 8 episodes. So, but yes, I highly suggest to watch it. Like I said, if you have any type of liking towards James Gunn's Suicide Squad, it's kind of in the same vein. Like I've said before, he's obnoxious, but it's like an obnoxious in a good way, where he's just kind of like this sympathetic obnoxious, where you start to kind of like feel bad for him, because it starts to like peel away like stuff that's happened to him before the movie. So
Yeah.
it's good. Secondly, Disney is using magical creatures instead of dwarves for the remake of the Snow White movie. I respect.
We could talk an hour about this. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Let's try and make it like 5 minutes. But with that being said, I respect Peter Dinklage and I respect what he has to say. But if we have this many strong feelings about this movie, and he's kind of right, like, why are we still making this stuff? Like, it's Snow White. This is written hundreds of years ago, maybe. I don't know, 100 years.
Almost 100 years ago, because the original came out in 19.
Well, I'm like
31.
Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The whole thing. It's 100 years ago. Okay, if we're trying to be more inclusive and more diverse, maybe we make up new stuff instead of going back to stuff that is probably going to upset a lot of people. And apparently, it's upset Mr. Dinklage, and rightfully so. So let's maybe not do this.
1937. We fought a world war since then.
Yeah, that's when the movie came out. But yeah,
Yes, the
so I
movie
was
came out.
Clint, you were saying
And
when the
obviously-
actual not when the actual
Yes, the
literature
actual
was-
story.
right. I'm like this. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, what are we doing here? Is anybody asking for this? Is anybody asking for this? No, it's because the wells run dry and we need to dip back into something. I'm like, and like, if you're gonna do, it's kind of like how they did with Mulan. Oh man, we're not gonna have Mushu, but we're gonna have some type of creature. I'm like, who is offended by Mushu not or being in that. I'm like, it's gonna be terrible. And I'm like, I feel like stupid for getting this upset about it because it's just all dumb. Everything about this is dumb. The fact that it's being made, what's being edited, and I'm just like, what? Why, Disney? What are you doing?
Alex, I'll be honest. I went all of 2021, and I didn't think about Mulan once. Thanks.
You're welcome, man. I wanted you to know
Yeah.
about that. I
But
wanted
no,
you to remember.
Alex, I'm with you. I think there's a discussion to be had about the subject material in the film, and I'm sure there's some good points, and I'm sure they could that a proper film could probably make it work if they try really hard, or not make it work. And there's arguments to be had. Why are we doing this film at all? I completely agree with you. I'm like, it's a step backwards as far as for a lot of reasons, but we've had so many of these remakes for like groundbreaking animation movies. And where's my Black Cauldron remake?
Yeah, right. Let's start there.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I think it's just so funny to see Disney back down so quickly. That was my favorite thing about the story. It was like Peter Dinklage takes shots at Disney. Disney fires back, and a day later, it was like Disney's going to change the dwarves to magical creatures, and I'm like, oh, Peter Dinklage won that really quickly. He should be Scarlett Johansson's agent.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
I know that doesn't work literally, but you know what? Like,
yeah, right.
To kind of like play off of this though too, and I know this is going to sound really weird, and I haven't really seen West Side Story. But apparently, like Rachel Zegler, I believe is that how you pronounce her last name, is playing Snow White. She looks all about what, 12, maybe 15. So it's gonna like, it just looks weird.
Well, here's the thing, and that's almost one of the better aspects. Like, it's if you're not including dwarves, then I can kind of get on board with that. Sort of like, I think the character, at least as far as I remember it being written, Snow White is like really, really young. She's like maybe 15, something like that. She's like really young. So that actually doesn't surprise me.
Well, yeah. Stop it, Disney.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I don't know. I mentioned that we've had 5 Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and we've remade Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and Aladdin, and we don't have, I think, of another B Disney movie. But like, where's my Black Cauldron remake?
I know they're remaking Aristocrats apparently.
Why?
Everybody loves.
I mean,
cats.
that one's better than Snow White, so I'm like, yeah, bring it on. But
everybody wants to be a cat.
Do they know? All right, moving on. We got some Star Wars news. So, Star Wars has announced 3 new games, including Fallen Order 2. One of them is a strategy game. It's a little confusing on the strategy game, so I'm not really sure if this is like classic RPG, like Final Fantasy strategy games or whatever, and they're making a first-person shooter. Now, I will say this as a diehard Star Wars fan, if they remake, what was it, Dark Forces as their first-person shooter, I will riot. Stop remaking stuff.
As the 10-year younger version, I don't know, but like, if they remake Commando, I'll riot.
Yeah. They may need to make a sequel to that instead of remaking it.
Mm-hmm. It did end on a cliffhanger.
It did. So I'm not really too sure what the strategy game will be. I'm kind of excited about Fallen Order. And yes, if the first-person shooter is Dark Forces remake, I will riot.
Yeah. Now, was there a rumor that the first-person shooter was going to be Battlefront 3, or is that just something I wished in my head and didn't read?
I read an article stating that it was kind of like an insurance to the fans that they were not making this.
Okay.
Or doing Battlefront 3 because of the losses that they had with 2.
Maybe they should just take notes from the old games that people love instead of the new games that people hate.
Yep. That's what I think.
That's fine.
And Alex, you shared like all the games that they have in development, right?
It was kind of just a rough overview of on IGN. I don't remember them all. I remember the strategy game and Fallen Order 2 because that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. I remember Star Wars Eclipse is one of them.
Yeah, that's by guys that did Norman Reedus game.
Yeah. So and then there's several.
Was it
others.
Heavy Rain? Maybe it was Heavy Rain.
I think you're thinking Heavy Rain.
Okay.
I don't know.
I do know that they have a KOTOR like re-release coming out. They're remaking Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh yeah, that was one.
I'm replaying through the old one too for the fourth time.
Nice. Is it on Switch already?
Yes, it is. That's why I'm playing through it. I think it's the third time for me, but yeah.
Nice. I know I'm gonna
It is the same, but you can use a controller. And I'll be honest, it's actually a little more difficult because I played it twice on the PC. But I mean, the updated action mechanic, the mechanic for fighting is definitely why the new game is going to improve on that. It's the only thing I think is dated about that game. I hate the like pause and turn based, but it's also not turn based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of Star Wars games, Star Wars 1313 gameplay has been revealed. One of the lead designers of 1313 dropped like a 3-minute video of Boba Fett running through Coruscant. Along with these games that IGN has announced that Star Wars is in development, why can't we go back to this? This was the coolest concept that I've ever heard of through a Star Wars game, and we're just gonna waste this?
Which one? 1313?
Yeah, 1313.
What is that in reference to?
So, okay. And I'm sorry that I didn't say this at the beginning. So for our audience that doesn't actually know what Star Wars 1313 is, it was a game that was supposed to come out like in the middle of the 2010s, I believe, or like in like the early 2000s. And it's level 1313 of Coruscant, where it's supposed to be like the seedy underbelly of Coruscant. And you were supposed to play as some brand new character. I think he was a bounty hunter, if I remember correctly. And you were supposed to, it was kind of like Star Wars Bounty Hunter, but it had it was on a grander scale. And it was not in the Republic era. It was actually during the Empire. So, yeah, it had a really cool concept and stuff like that. So, but they just kind of stopped, I think, like midway through it. So there's like half the game is finished, if I remember correctly, or some of it is actually finished. I think if you watch the video, there's a lot of it that just looks like they needed to add the textures to it and like the actual like game to it, but he's like running around. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious on like why they didn't finish this. Like if you have all these games in development, why this wasn't one that they just kind of like, okay, well, it just needs to be finished and polished and released. So
yes.
More Star Wars game news. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga will be released on the 5th of April.
Yay! We actually learned this, I think, like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. I don't know. Can't remember.
Yeah.
I remember I was sad because I wanted it back a couple of years ago, and it kept just like, oh, it's coming in June, July, August, December. Oh yeah, we don't know. And so it's been a couple of years later, maybe even 3 years later. I think Strable commented on when I shared it, and he's like, they totally missed the opportunity to put it on May 4th. I'm like, yeah, that is kind of weird that they, didn't push it to that. I mean, it's only a month after this date of April 5th, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird that they didn't do it. I think it would sell a lot better, but it includes all of the Skywalker saga. So you're playing 9 essential games, movies, and I don't know if you guys watched the trailer. It's about 6 minutes long. It kind of overviews what the game will bring and how you can play, who you can play as, and everything. And it's not like a traditional Lego game. I've probably played like Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Movie. I played one of the Lego Star Wars games. I I played Marvel, Avengers. I played a few of them, and they all in their core are essentially the same thing. But this one doesn't feel the same. The gameplay, like, there's different kind of ways to play. Like, there's like first person shooting. There's like, kind of like, what do you call it? Because I don't the terminology escapes me, but like free form, like just like hack and slash. There's that, and I'm just like, okay. So there is hype for this that is legitimized because of all these different ways to play. So that for right now, other than Fallen Order 2, that's the one I'm most looking forward to, because I can just kind of jump in and it's cute, it's quirky. They take lines straight from the movie and put that as their dialogue, and it's fun, just fun. That's why I'm excited for that.
So now we have some actual casting news. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead was cast in Ahsoka. Yay! Kind of off the back of this, when are we getting the Obi-Wan trailer? Like,
It doesn't exist.
You don't think it exists?
It's the Morbius of the Star Wars universe.
I know. I think they're waiting until Boba Fett's finale. I've
sure.
realized a lot of their marketing's like, we'll finish one and then get you hooked on the next one right away.
Yeah.
And Clint, a lot of actors and actresses kind of like, I kind of like, I know their faces, but the names, I'm like, okay, hey, who's that? And yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, great.
You shut your face.
Sure. Whatever.
Do you know who she is, or do you not care who she is?
Yeah.
Get out.
Oh man, I love that movie, Ryan. Thanks for reminding me. No, that's okay.
She was in Birds of Prey.
Ryan's like, I will fight you.
Hang on, we got to talk about Get Out now, the 6-year-old movie.
No, we don't need to go into that. But Mary, Miss Winstead, fine actress. Her work is not for me. I'll just leave it at that.
What? That's John McClane's daughter.
Who?
Don't.
What?
I guess
that's John McClane's daughter.
That too, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm sorry.
Beat you up.
I know. I'm a rage inducer today. I'm a rage inducer.
You're going to be in about 10 minutes too, apparently.
Yeah. Moving on. Why do we need this? Dwayne Johnson is making a Call of Duty movie. Stop it.
They belong together.
Because they know he needs a break from the jungle in every movie he's ever been in his life. So
now, are there any jungle settings in Call of Duty that we could cameo in here, though?
Oh, that's probably part of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be at least
a Pacific Theater. So,
see, here's the thing: one of these two has a big dumb release every single year, and it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. And the other one is Call of Duty.
Look,
that is perfect.
I'm gonna wrap this up in just a nice little bow. Okay, so in 1998, we already had a Call of Duty movie. It was called Saving Private Ryan. Okay, it was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's probably hailed as one of the greatest war movies, if not the top 10 greatest war movie of all time. We don't need this. Okay, and then like a few years later, Steven Spielberg was like, hey, let's make Band of Brothers, which is like Call of Duty extended version. Okay, so stop it. Just stop.
We even got the Pacific.
Yeah, which is even better than that too. Well, it wasn't as good as Band of Brothers, but just saying.
I think the issue I'm having the most with this is like, so when you make a game movie, a movie from the source material of a game, there has to be like callbacks to reference like that are distinguishable from that game. So like Sonic, you got rings or something, you got his shoes, you got something that obviously is only in that. Call of Duty looks like just a general war game. Like there's nothing that's just for that. I mean, I'm very ignorant when I say that because I've never played any Call of Duty. I couldn't care less because I don't like Call of Duty. But just from random videos I've seen and screenshots, I'm just like, This just looks like a war movie. So you're gonna call it Call of Duty. It's just gonna look like a war movie. I'm like, unless the movie is gonna go all what was that one movie where it was shot like in first person the entire time to make it look like a game? It was like
Upgrade. No, it wasn't Upgrade. That's
Hardcore
a
Harry.
horrible thing to say.
Harry, that was it. Something Harry.
Hardcore Henry.
Henry, that was it. I remember that,
Yeah.
and I remember that being such a huge flop.
Ugh.
So unless they're gonna do that and be like, just have Dwayne Johnson like monologuing some, just throwaway lines that are kind of funny, which I don't understand if that would be like normal for a Call of Duty game. I don't know if they make quips, but like, none of this it's not recognizable as a video game. Like, so why are we doing this? Why are we calling it a video? You could have just said, hey, we're making a blah, blah, blah war movie or, an action movie and call it something else. And we would have totally believed you. So, oh no, we're going to call it, it's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm so frustrated by that.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is, like you said, when we posted this, it's another action movie. Like, why? Like, first of all, why do we have to have this big secret of like what game he's making? Who cares? Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, like I said, let's even take like Call of Duty out of the World War II era, because it goes through like 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and then it goes to like modern warfare, which then you have to argue is Black Hawk Down. That's a good war movie. Again, directed by Ridley Scott, and is in better hands than whoever this is I'm sure going to be. So, and then you have like the Black Ops stuff, which is just another war movie. So, like you said, Alex, with Call of Duty, there's no like distinguishable from one to the other. I think now it's just gotten that it was a good first person shooter game. It was based in like World War II, which nobody really does. And like all these games are based on factual events. And I believe like even like a couple of them are like factual people.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So, and then like you go into like modern war, and the game has just progressed to this thing where it's now just kind of like this multiplayer online ranking system where the gameplay or the campaign doesn't even matter anymore. So it's like making a Fortnite movie.
Yeah. So, but
don't will that into existence.
Yeah, I know. Don't give anybody fuel. No, and just call it Call of Doody. Call of Duty.
Wow.
Duty. Okay. More. Why do we need this? Mortal Kombat 2 is being made.
You guys said I was a rage inducer. This is inducing my rage.
Now, I said this in early 2020 before Mortal Kombat came out. 2021? 2020? It was 2021. That was last year.
Yeah.
Yes. I said this before Mortal Kombat came out.
It was when we reopened, like back in April. Mm-hmm.
But there's nowhere to go but up, right? I mean, as long as it's not just another movie without Mortal Kombat, it's got to be at least, I feel like this movie was the Mortal Kombat we had last year was the Mortal Kombat prequel to the Mortal Kombat we wanted. So.
Okay, so what you're saying is like this is what this is what people are really going to get excited for. Like,
yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
That was just kind of the one of those where the first one is always just going to pale in comparison when you get like where you really want to achieve your goal. Okay, I can kind of understand that, but I'm still going to have my reservations.
So I'm just going to be negative Nancy here. So you guys say all this, and I'm going to take you on a time traveling trip with me. In 1995, when they released the first Mortal Kombat movie, the original Mortal Kombat movie, we pretty much said the same thing. We were like, hey, this is decent. But the second one's going to be, there's no way up but up. And then 2 years later, in 1997, they released Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and we were like, you didn't hear a word we said. So, yeah.
Oh,
just putting that out there.
Worst films ever made.
Yeah. It probably is.
So they just said that it's in development right now, right? Or it's in the works.
With as much money as it made and as much popularity it did on HBO Max, I'm probably sure this is a pretty sure thing.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think they're like getting the wheels rolling on that like now. Like there's no actual like, release date or anything.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm sure this is a sure thing though.
Oh yeah.
Next up, Percy Jackson, the Olympians show is coming to Disney Plus. Ryan looks very excited for this. I'm indifferent. I'm like, yeah, the books were pretty good. Why not?
No, I will say, and I say this on behalf of my wife, who has read the books and has been following this. I forgot this was happening until she was like, "Yeah, I talked to you about this a year ago or something." Whenever, because I guess this was announced because the writer of the books wasn't very hands-on in the movies, and then that writer was very dissatisfied with the movies. So I guess this is a more hands-on approach to being involved in your material getting adapted, which means it probably will be. Hey, there's nowhere to go but up. So, yeah.
You're like, yay.
I thought this was a sure thing too, because I remember this being announced like on Disney Day in like late 2020, I thought. So
yeah, it's been so long, so I wasn't sure if I was sharing something that had already been like announced, or
I thought so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess he made it. The author Rick Rodin. He posted on his Instagram, I believe, that said that like this was going ahead. So maybe they just kind of announced it that maybe this was in development. I don't know.
But I know there's a lot of fandom around it, because like I mean, you attach Percy Jackson into that, people are gonna have perked ears and be like,
because I believe there's like two separate, like two connected series, because there's Percy Jackson and then there's one.
So there's a difference between will they and should they, and I think Ryan's going with should they.
Yes, sure.
But will they? Yeah, there's I think there's enough.
Sorry, I'm multitasking a little bit.
It's okay. Last but not least, you guys have mentioned it before. There is a 4-hour cut of the new Batman movie, of Matt Reeves' Batman movie, out here somewhere. And I say hashtag release the Reeves cut.
Yep. I'll sign it. Sure.
We're getting back to this, so I had a thought on it. When you take a 4.5-hour movie and you make it 2 hours, that's bad. Justice League. When you take a 4-hour movie and you make it 3 hours, that means it's probably a good cut of the movie, and then the director's cut that we'll get on Blu-ray, DVD special edition, will be the cut we watch from now on. So I can see why this isn't 4 hours. I don't understand that. I mean, movies that are released that have that popularity behind them that are 4 hours have done well in the past. So I don't know why movies like this are getting their 3-hour cut. But I'm hoping that it's still a competent cut down and not a Kingdom of Heaven butcher job.
So I'm limited in my movie development knowledge, but I would think that people, like, in general, they film whatever amount they have. Like, just we got so much of this. Like, this is what we've got. Now we go into editing, and we're gonna trim this, we're gonna trim this, we're gonna trim this, we're gonna edit this, we're gonna make this a little spruced up, everything like that. That's how it, like, in my brain works. And what I'm getting at is, I think probably everybody does this, but Batman is, like, because it's, in my opinion, my most not sought after movie, like my most anticipated for this year, because I can't really think of anything later on. Like, I'm just short-minded when it comes to release dates. So I'm like, a lot of people do this, and I think they're just saying that they're doing it, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, they got a 4-hour cut. I'm thinking a lot of people do that, but they're just the only ones right now who are saying that they're doing it, and they put it with a test audience to be like, what do you like? What do you, what did you think? Did you think you needed this? Was this a little too long? Did you want this scene? Blah, blah, blah. Is there a potential Selena Kyle, romance going on in here?
Yes.
For sure. Like, but, and how, to what extent? Like, how much do we dive into it? Does it come to full fruition? Like, do we go the whole way here? Do we go, how far do we explore this topic? And then and you know how, like I said, like how much of that is in there, who knows? So that's the key thing, is this is a test test showing. This isn't necessarily, this is what we have, this is the full cut that should be here. This is, you know, we are testing out what works and what doesn't, ultimately, of this entire block of footage that we have.
Yeah.
So I think more or less that's just how films work.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think there's definitely some strategy as to they're keeping it 3 hours because they don't think that a film over 3 hours will perform. But I think the danger is just that we've going back to other movies that have been cut down from a longer cut. We've been burned by like Once Upon a Time in America and like I said, Kingdom of Heaven and Justice League, especially, you know, and that film deserved at least a 3 hour cut. But I am hoping this is more of a, and saying that Batman's gonna be like Lord of the Rings is not gonna happen. But that, you know, that they cut, you know, probably 45 minutes out of each film, to the point where I think Return of the King, the extended editions, almost like an hour longer, or maybe about 45 minutes longer. You know, and I can see why that extended edition wasn't released in theaters, because the cuts they made were, you know, they're critical to the movie once you watch the extended edition, but you don't watch the theatrical cut and be like, oh, where's the mouth of Sauron? You're like, it's, you know, so I'm hoping that it's like that, where it's it's a cut that, like Alex, you said, like the test screenings said, people don't need this and we can cut this. And the fact that it's not 3 hours on the dot means there's probably some intent to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I'm a little like Clint though too. I'm like, I kind of want this. Like, give us all the raw footage for the most part. Like, obviously, spruce it up, make it look nice and everything. But as far as just trimming down, like, don't do it. Just give us what you have. Like, I partly want that, but I partly don't. Like, I'm just kind of like, it's quality, man. If it's good, leave it. If it's bad, probably move it out. It's
going to be interesting too, though. I think it's a big determining factor in what audiences will put up through with a long movie, because last year we saw a lot of releases that were lengthy runtimes that really put the audience through what felt like the entire movie, because it was the year of, this is everything the director did, done, here's the movie. Zack Snyder had a 4.5 hour film and a 2.5 hour film. Ridley Scott had 2.5 hour films. Denis Villeneuve had a 2.5 hour film. Spider-Man was 2.5 hours, and half of those did well. So it's it'll be, I mean, obviously Batman will do well. It's a name to it. And the films that didn't do as well, you know, Nightmare Alley, Last Duel, they were great, but they didn't have the name to it. And you know, nobody wanted to go see In the Heights apparently in the middle of June, and it just wasn't the right time for it, I think, because that film underperformed. So I think we'll see. I think Batman will determine like how well these long cuts will do also. And so if it does really well, there's a chance that the next movie that is 4 hours cut down to 3 hours might get a 3.5 hour cut. And it can slowly work. I mean, I would think after Endgame that a 3 hour cut would be confident enough anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Because like, I don't know about Endgame, but like, Infinity War to me was like very well paced. Although it was it was either action or drama, like the entire movie. You know, I dig that. That's kind of why it's one of my favorites, if not my favorite Marvel movie. And so it can be done where 2.5 or 2 hours 45 minutes to 3 hours can be like just an absolute breeze to go through. So like, yeah, I'm with you, Ryan. You can make a 3 hour movie if competently done and have it be where it feels just like a regular duration. So
well, I think the only argument that I have for that though is just like, if you take those movies, even No Way Home, they're an ensemble cast, so you have a lot going on.
Yeah.
So like with Infinity War and Endgame, you have, what did they say, like 66 characters all together in this whole movie.
True. Yeah.
So good it's point. Like you're bouncing around from place to place, and yes, it was a feat to get all that together under it was 3 hours and 2 minutes. So to get it to 3 hours, but you literally have 66 characters to bounce around from. So my argument is that Batman, you're focused on one character and one character kind of only. And I understand that like bouncing from like Catwoman to Batman and like different like maybe crime bosses and things like that and like other like Gothamite characters, but you're still kind of focused on Batman. And my worries is that with it being 3 hours, that's a lot. But though I did look it up, so this one, the Batman, will be at 175 minutes. So that's 2 hours and 55 minutes long. Dark Knight Rises was 165. Dark Knight was 152. And Batman Begins was at 140. So that's what, 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 30 something minutes.
Mm.
And then Dark Knight Rises was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So it actually can be done. But my problem with Dark Knight Rises was that it was a little too long.
Yeah.
It's a very indulgent movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if you have a 4-hour cut of a Batman movie, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
you make a really good point, because I mean, for the most part, it's like dark and brooding. That's Batman's thing. So like, I get it. Batman is obviously very popular, but like, you can only show so much before people are like, okay, kind of what else happens. Yeah. So that's a very good point.
I am hoping that in that 4-hour cut is his parents' death, and in that 3-hour cut isn't.
I think that is the formula.
I think I've read an interview that's saying that Reeves is not doing another origin story. He said
really?
that it's been done a few times before and that we kind of get it. So thank you, Matt Reeves.
I'm either way. If you want to do an origin story, I'm good. If you want to continue as if he's been living the Batman life for, a few years, sure, go for it. I don't care.
No, I think that they should go away with Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's just like you kind of get where Spider-Man's come from. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, sure, go for it.
We don't need it.
You say that, and now we have a 3-part, 6.5-hour origin story leading into Spider-Man's second movie after his first 3 movies.
Yeah, right.
I'm making fun of Spider-Man while I can. It's like the 5th highest grossing movie of all time now.
You're gonna have
or
the
6th or something.
It is.
the DC multiverse.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. That's the news.
Is that all?
Yeah, that was almost an hour.
Yeah, that was a good amount of news today.
It was. Unless you guys have anything else.
Nope.
Please don't have anything else.
I thought I did. I was like watching trailers yesterday, and I was thinking about all the things I wanted to talk about, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah. No, we covered everything.
Something got shuffled. A couple release dates got shuffled around.
Oh,
Tom Cruise's movies all got pushed back, but that's just Tom Cruise is nuts, and Paramount.
Now did Top Gun get moved from May?
I'm sure it did.
Oh well,
I mean, both his Mission Impossibles got moved.
I know that the Downton Abbey movie got moved from March to May 20th. I know that's like among us who really
the Downton
cares.
Abbey movie? No.
Yeah, right. No, that's the only one I can remember. Yeah, that one, the Downton Abbey one. Not that I really care. It's not for me. Like I think that's a better sell time for that. It just comes Downton Abbey just from just looking at it, like just feels like kind of a springtimey kind of movie. That's just kind of the best feel time of the year for it. So I know May's more or less like getting closer to summer rather than spring. So I feel like that's a better sell. And then we've just been talking the crap out of Batman. I don't think they're going to want to compete with Batman, even though the demographic for that is way different. So people who like Batman are probably not going to see Downton Abbey. So that's not totally a solid argument. But
I don't know about you, but I watched Downton Abbey for the violence.
The violent.
Wait, there's violence? Maybe I should watch this.
You'll be shocked.
So much blood.
How can we let him down? All right.
The underground fight club these rich people are running.
It's called Downtown Abbey.
Jesus. All right, we're moving on. So this week we reviewed something. Scream. Technically,
Oh, I thought you were
Scream
telling
5,
me to
so
do something.
Scream 2022. This is the 5th of Scream movies in this franchise. And I'm sure that we're going to have a lot to say about all 4 of them, actually. So this one takes place 25 years later after the first events, or the first Scream movie, which came out in 1996. And we follow Sam, and she is pulled back into Wordsboro for some weird reason, because Ghostface is killing people, and she's connected somehow. Sidney Prescott comes back, Gale Weathers comes back, and Dewey comes back. Dewey Riley. I keep forgetting his last name. There it is.
He's Dewey.
It's Dewey. And horror stuff ensues. So, I mean, what can you really say without giving away this plot?
Yeah, right.
I feel like I have to defend this movie, and I think I'm gonna do that. So first of all, I'm gonna give this like a 6.5. There are some points for silliness taken down. There's some points for my biggest gripe about this movie is that it does its legacy characters kind of dirty. And I know that Alex and I kind of talked about this, where your legacy characters are Sidney Prescott, Gale Weathers, and Dewey. They're literally the only 3 that have survived all first 4 movies. Okay. And as one of the characters has eloquently put, that this is a requel, which is a new term that I've never heard of, but I'm going to use this now. That it's kind of harkens back to the originals, and it's a sequel that is supposed to kind of like be a passing of the torch, which is what Halloween 2018 was, but it really didn't pass the torch to anybody. Yeah, because then it was Halloween Kills. Anyway,
Evil dies tonight. Matt wasn't here to say it.
Yeah. So your legacy characters, the 3 legacy characters, are in this movie for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe.
Dewey has the most screen time.
Dewey does have the most screen time. And all these movies are based around Sidney Prescott, and Neve Campbell is in this movie for 10 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
10 minutes. 10 minutes out of a 2-hour movie. Okay. Could we not include her a little bit more? Could we not have her kind of be a part of this a little bit more? Because if you're only going to show Neve Campbell for 10 minutes, why do it at all?
Yeah, right.
Why do it at all? I think that was kind of unnecessary. And they brought her in to do this, and it's well, you can't have a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott, and you can't have a Halloween movie without Laurie Strode. So
except for the last one. I see what you're going with, though. Now that I've said that.
Yeah, but why do it at all? I mean, don't or why even include her character? You could kill her off screen, because if you're only going to use her for 10 minutes, just kill her off. Well, she had a heart attack. She's no longer with us. No, I don't want to do this. Whatever. Just don't do it. And I think that was my biggest gripe with this movie. Because, I mean, as far as the rest of the movie goes, it is very formulaic. Not even a word. It follows a formula.
It follows, yeah.
It follows a formula, very much to the T. It is kind of silly, and by the end of it, you kind of understand why they're doing this. And I did like that it's kind of meta, where it's kind of at this point where at the end of the movie you find out why they're doing this, and you're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I'm surprised this hasn't happened before. One of the killers wasn't a shock to me. The other one was kind of a shock to me, but by the time that you do a process of elimination, like you do in every single one of these Scream movies, you're just kind of like, yep, that makes sense. So it wasn't horrible. Some of the jokes were kind of good, but I wouldn't put this in my top echelon of Scream movies.
What are you rating?
What do you rate? 6.5. Let's go. let's go 6, just for the horrible way that they use those legacy characters.
Okay. Ryan, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I'll get I have all the same thoughts. This is probably the least I've had to say because I agree with you. I mean, I'll try to get some more thoughts in here, but yeah, I agree with you 100%. I went into this movie. I drugged myself to go see it last night, and I was like, I'm doing it for you guys. After binging 2, 3, and 4 in like 2 days, I was so burnt out on these films, and I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this movie. But I can acknowledge its faults for sure. And there are times where it's like, oh, I enjoyed this so much, I've just got to give it a high rating. And this is not really one of those times. I will go ahead and give it a 6. But I did really enjoy this movie. It's definitely the most I've enjoyed a Scream movie since the original, knowing that I watched all of the sequels this week, and didn't have kind of that time spread out. But yeah, I thought there was a lot to really enjoy here. I really liked the new cast. That's a hard sell, is kind of coming up with a requel with such a big cast and having them all stick. And I think this film did a pretty good job with it. There's a couple minor characters that are just not memorable, but that's in every horror film ever. And I kept comparing the things I didn't like in this. And I was like, I didn't really like this little twist. I didn't like this self-aware thing. Didn't like this, and this. And I was like, still better than every 5th horror movie ever. You know, and it's as a horror sequel goes, I'm not sure this film needs to exist, but if we're going to do it and the Scream franchise is going to persevere, this is the way to do it. Now, I agree that the use of the older the legacy characters, I said older characters, making them sound old, but as in older as in the other movies. But you know, I get the intent of it, and there's definitely some parallels to how this is done in other movies. But those other movies involve their characters in a better way. They, reference Star Wars, and I don't know if they reference Rocky, but that's kind of one of the ones that came to mind, or Halloween 2018. And this felt more like, now when I say it feels like Halloween 2021, it doesn't. But the way they use the characters almost does, where it's like we're not really doing a lot with. But fortunately, I think they did a good job with their new characters. There were some really, really great moments in this movie. One of my favorite little moments is, well, I actually don't want to give it away because it was a nice surprise to me. But there's some little moments in here where it's like we see things that these movies really never thought to address before, which for a Scream movie, being as self-aware as it is, was really surprising. And it's like, what happens when you have a character that's not used to this, that lives through this? What's their reaction? Oh, it's trauma. What a thing. I feel like I've never seen that in a horror movie before for some reason, because everyone's just kind of hit the ground running. Let's deal with the next scene and the next scene and the next scene. And it's like, here's an emotional reaction to an event that happened in a very grounded way. And I was just in love with some of the moments like that and some of the realism to it. And it feels more real than the others. I mean, you still got a lot of silly things happening, but this series has definitely learned from itself and from other series is how to take cliches, expectations, and predictability and play on them just enough to feel grounded. And except for a couple, the phone's ringing, let me look, it feels much more grounded than the other films in this series and other horror films, where it's like, Ghostface was a much more competent antagonist than in, I think, any of the sequels. In fact, to the point where I was very intimidated by the presence of this character that I feel like I've seen 15 times. And it still was something menacing about this one. And I mean, they say it in the trailer where Dewey's like, this one feels different. I think this one does feel a little different. It feels like it's, I'm going to sound really just like the movie talking about itself, but it does feel like there's some more stakes to it because of how of a threat it feels. This Ghostface isn't really playing around. And I really appreciated some of the severity they bring to this, and they kind of take the tone really seriously with it. And it just led for a good experience for me. I think there's some really silly moments, but especially following The Matrix 4, the self-aware humor couldn't have been better. Now, I would if The Matrix hadn't shot themselves in the foot, I might be saying some of this is a little on the nose, but it's not like we're saying the executives at Warner Brothers said this. Shut up, Jonathan Groff. This film did a much better job, I think, with doing that, and it didn't feel as silly as the third film, where it's being so self-aware, it's almost to the point of parody. And I couldn't help but enjoy that this film got out of bed just to put all the other films to rest that are doing the same thing, that they wanted to poke fun at it, and they are doing the same thing as all those other films. This is definitely a sequel that didn't need to happen. Nobody asked for it. Nobody asked for. Well, I'm sure we were asking for another Star Wars movie, but once we got Force Awakens, we weren't clamoring for it, and some of these movies are good and some of these are bad. But I really enjoy that this film does kind of earn its existence in the end. So high 6 for me. I would like to own this when it comes out.
Huh.
Take us to school, Alex.
I did not. No, you guys are the horror people. It almost so much.
We're the horror people.
You guys dive into the horror genre way more than me, so it's not. And I think this is my review is gonna personify that pretty well. So before I think what had me against this film was I'm more or less a traditionalist with a lot of things. Like I'm really adverted to change. So when you take when you're this is basically like Scream, the new class, more or less. And so I don't know. I have high reservations against that. Like I don't really care for it. But that's my personal bugaboo about it. I'm gonna go ahead and give my rating already. This is probably a 4 for me. Potentially even worse, because I remember I did Malignant as a 4, and that movie's so dumb that I kind of had enjoyment out of it. Where like I didn't enjoy this movie more or as equally as the other one. So, but I'm still gonna leave it as a 4 for right now.
Can I interject?
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like we've said so many nice things about Malignant since our Malignant review where we tore that movie to shreds.
It's almost like a stress ball. Like you want to beat the crap out of it, but that's the enjoyment you get out of it. Like that's its purpose, is to be beaten. So it's like, hey, it's kind of fun to just kind of make fun of this stupid movie. It's kind of almost never mind. Anyway, so my review goes. So I am not, like I said, I'm not crazy about the new characters and everything. I'm like you guys, or at least like Ryan. This didn't really need to be made, but it's okay. I am not giving away the ending until we get into spoilers, but I think I'm a guy who really, really strives to look for the reasoning and why characters do what they do in anything. So like I'm a huge like, okay, what is your motivation? Like, why are you here? Why have we been brought on this journey? And I don't think that the killer or killers, because there's always 2 in just about every movie, reasoning. He didn't have an accomplice in number 3? Huh. Or she didn't have an accomplice in number 3? Okay, whatever. Nobody cares.
It's like a 20-year-old movie. Nobody really cares anymore.
Huh. You're right. Okay. So excluding that one, they all have an accomplice. So the killer's reasoning, in my opinion, I felt was just incredibly lame. I couldn't get behind it. I'm just like, with all the other ones, like, going back to the very original, like, Billy Loomis, he's the killer because of what Sydney's mom did, and kind of tore up his life with his parents and everything. So there's a reason for it. It's not, I'm just going to kill because of killing. Now, with that being said, a lot of people will like, it's almost kind of like the joke, the Dark Knight's Joker. It could just be he wants to kill just because he kills, and that's almost like, like Michael Myers, like he just kills because he kills, just because he kills. So,
well, he's trying to get to his bedroom window.
Yeah.
Or something.
But more or less, it's just that he's just killing people. So like if you dig that, then maybe you like this more than I do. Ryan, I am gonna completely disagree with you in that this is way more self-aware of the Scream franchise than number 3 was, and I found it incredibly annoying. I understand that these movies know about the movie that they're in, and they're basically talking about Scream via stab, but you cannot do it the entire movie.
But you're telling me that a movie that pokes fun of itself the entire movie is more self-aware than a movie that pokes fun of itself on the set of the movie that's making fun of the movies?
I'm confused.
Because Stab 3 happens on the set of Stab 2, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Scream 3 is
Scream
on the
3.
set
Yeah,
of
gosh.
Stab 2.
Yeah,
Yes.
I said Stab 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, though, Alex. I agree, because that film could have actually used more levity. I think Scream 3 could have used more levity, like this one did, in poking fun of the fact that it's silly. Instead, it doesn't bring attention to the fact that it's silly, and then it just feels silly. So I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's what you want to get out of the movie. If you like, taking, little jabs at all the previous films and everything like that, sure, this is for you. I appreciate the jokes here and there and some of the shot for shots, from previous versions. But I'm like, can we actually make a story here? And all the Scream movies are silly in their nature. They're going to do, like, somebody's going to act sporadically or irrationally because of the sake of either getting somebody killed off or just to advance the story in a way. So I get that. Like, you have to have people act stupid in order to move the plot along. But, you can only do that so long. But I can't really mention a lot of my gripes until we actually get into spoilers. So yeah,
Okay.
4 out of 10. I arguably think that this and 3, you could make the argument for one of these two being the worst in my opinion. It goes overall, just to clarify my view on all the Screams, it goes original, I will always be the best. 1, 2 and 4 are kind of tied for, I'd maybe even give 4 a little bit of a lean up on 2. So 1, 4, 2, 3 and 5 later on. Maybe I'll think about it later and be like, yep, this is definitively the worst. But yeah, 4 out of 10 for me.
So let's go into spoilers.
Spoilers for anybody who's watching it today.
To kind of go to what you were saying, Alex, as we are in spoilers. So the whole point of the ending of the killers, we'll reveal the killers later. But the whole point of the killers is basically toxic fandom. So the only reason why I didn't find a gripe with this and how like meta it is, because there's a lot of scenes where they go back to where one character is literally watching every Stab movie while they're in this movie. And as meta and as self-aware as that is, I think it kind of goes to the point to what the motivations of the killers are. Because I mean, if you literally look down on, he says, because he's part of a toxic fandom that wants to have a better Stab movie than the one that they are going to make or have made before. I want to say it was gonna make. So they were trying to recreate something Stab worthy to make or have a better story to make a better Stab movie later on.
Well, how ironic, because they totally fall flat, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
Well, in your opinion, and I respect that, but I think it is a lot more meta, and it's kind of true to a lot of fandoms. I mean, sorry, Ryan, but I mean, us Star Wars fans, we can be very toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't get what we want, we go, sorry, ape shit. And
no,
it's just,
you're right.
And I think that, and I think that's why I kind of understand like why they did this, because I understand toxic fandom.
They take the Star Wars fandom to school in this movie, and it was probably why I enjoyed it so much.
Right. And I think that that's why Ryan and I kind of like understand why the motivations are that the way they are, and then why he kind of watches all these movies while he's in this movie is kind of like, well, yeah, once you get down to the nitty gritty of like why he explains what he's doing, it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I understand that, and it's like if you guys appreciate that, and there's toxicity, like that I have for whatever games I'm into or anything like that. So if I don't get what I want, or if I think it's trending in a way that I don't like, yeah, there's can be some rage. So I get that. So I try to think more and more in that frame of mind.
So I had this discussion because Rachel did not like the finale either. Alex, she's right up there with you, and so I've like practiced for this, and I think I easily lost this discussion last night, as husbands should. But I mean, it was interesting because I had watched 2, 3, and 4, and she hadn't, and I still got schooled. So here's why I do like the character revelation. I don't think it's so much to me about motivation. And now the motivations are weak. I think they work thematically, and they're not believable. And I'm at the point where I'm like, sure, better than 4, better than 3, and better than, again, we're in the 5th movie in this series, and it's better than the 5th movie in any other horror series. I think I can just say that Prometheus doesn't count. Like racking my brain to make sure that statement's safe to say. And most 5th movies, just in case, most 5th horror movie series. But the reason I enjoyed it is because of how these movies have conditioned us to watch these movies. And it was almost to the point where the Scream sequels are annoying how much I'm just thinking about the endings. But it's very much building to like, okay, I got to figure this out before everybody else does. And these movies withhold information from you, so you really, really can't, unless you're just taking notes throughout. And this film points out the killer like 30 minutes in, and you're like, yeah, well, it's not him. Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how these movies work. And they bring information, and they make you suspect people because of where they were, where they weren't, and they advertise this so much because it happens they tease at it in the second movie also, where it's like, Sydney's boyfriend is missing. He got cut in the arm but not killed, and it's not him. And you're like, they're just doing the same thing. They're making us think it's this guy. I guess I'm talking about one of the killers already, and we said we'd hold off on that. but like, and I love the fact that the horror vet is like, yeah, it's probably your boyfriend. And then it is. And I'm like, I'm such an idiot for not just listening to the characters who've been through this 4 times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they did it. They pulled the wool over my eyes. And so, and I'm assuming, are we okay talking about the killers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
I'm assuming when you said you knew one of them was coming, Rachel, as soon as the mean girl in the group like turned on the other ones, Rachel was like, yeah, I mean, of course. So I don't know if that's who you were talking about, but I was like, you could probably figure out one of them. But I think that's how the other movies go too. When there's 2 killers, you can probably figure out one of them, and the other one's the twist because they withhold information from you. And so to me, I just love that the film plays with the audience so much from what they've built from us. And of all the things to not bring attention to, that was a really nice thing to not be like, yeah, we fooled you. Instead, they were like, he's almost mad about it. So
well, here's the thing. I told Clint this, that I said, this is both kind of a gripe and a praise for the movie, where like I think the whole point is obviously who's the killer. That's probably the biggest thing you are trying to do out of this movie. I mean, I'd be a little weirded out if you weren't trying to do that like the most. But like here's the stream of the movie. Like, and we learn that the killer, like right at the end, like it could have been anybody, because it's like you said, Ryan, I am very under the impression that like there is not enough information that you are given into this movie to be like, oh, I can definitively say that I think more often than not, this is the case, that I can definitively say that this is the killer. Like, I don't think you're ever given that enough information until it's been revealed. Like, hey, this is all that stuff we didn't show you before. Like Like freaking, like we referenced number 3. Like that guy apparently is what, her half brother or what? The guy who's directing the stab movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's like her half brother.
Oh,
I don't even remember.
that's who that is. Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember.
I
So
remembered it was the director. That's it. Spoilers for Scream 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how
Bad.
how the heck are you supposed to know that? Yeah.
Please don't spoil 4 because that's actually the one I haven't seen.
Okay.
And I'm probably gonna go back.
Okay. Won't spoil it for spoil
Yeah,
4.
Please don't spoil 4.
Okay. But for the most part, like you have no idea. Like how are we supposed to know that that guy was a relative of her, and that like because they have no interaction. There's nothing that indicates that. So my point is that they stream, like it could be anybody, and then I mean you could honestly at the very end you could write anybody to be the killer in about 10 minutes. Like, oh man, it totally could be the football player. Oh, it totally could be something, so that's both a gripe and kind of a praise. Like that's the whole point of these movies, is that like they mask who the big reveal is until the very end. So I'm like, I guess that's kind of the point.
I think they actually did that for 3. I think they wrote like 3 or 4 endings because that was when like movies were really like the internet and everything was really coming. So I think that they actually did do that for 3.
Well, they should go back and choose another one.
Yeah.
But so like I will say that like I can sit here and be like, yeah, I kind of knew it was this character all along. I mean, we're still kind of like, spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Killer in number 5 was Jack Quaid's character and yeah, the boyfriend, and what's her name, Amber, in the, I don't know who her relation is to everybody, just a friend.
She was Tara's friend.
Yeah, Tara's
younger sister.
Because the opening.
Yeah.
So
an idiot.
Yeah, well, and so that's actually another kind of, it's actually more of a praise now that I think about it, because like in the opening for this movie, it's Amber texting Tara and saying like, hey, something, like having an actual conversation, and then she gets the call, and then it's like, this isn't Amber, and it's like you think that that the killer actually stole her phone, but it's like, oh wait, she's the killer, so it makes sense. So she can just say, I could be texting you guys, hey, this isn't Alex. What's your scary favorites? Yeah. So that's actually almost like I can kind of give props for that. But I didn't even put it together that it was her, because I don't think anybody would have thought that. In hindsight you can think that now, but like it could have been anybody. I kept thinking that I thought it was him being Jack Quaid, and I thought it was that football player's one of the twins, his like girlfriend, the pink-haired chick. That's who I kept thinking, more often than not. Another praise I will give this movie is that the misdirection, albeit a little heavy-handed, like they know, like the other twin, I think her name's Mary, I forget, in the movie. The chick on the couch is basically like who's reenacting Randy's part from the first one. That girl. There's a moment where she and Amber are down in the basement, where she's trying to get beers, and like they keep going like, yeah, I could be the killer. So you shouldn't come down here all alone. You should be attended with somebody. Yeah, well, how do you know I'm not the killer? Blah 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 blah. And they just keep going this back and forth where you're just like, you're a little on edge. So I will give them props for the whole misdirection and like the red herrings in this, because they're all over the place. So, and I think that's a good point. I may give a point back for all of that.
Alex, you've sold me on it, I think.
So it's just, what do you value out of this movie that gives you your rating? Like if you value this, then it's for you. Probably just not for me. And thinking back to the toxicity of fans, like I can get that now. I can get that a little bit more, but I'm still like, I don't know. I think I'm just talking about heavy-handed. I think referencing all of these Scream movies in a haha kind of way, they're actually stab movies, ha ha ha, is like, okay, I get it, you're self-aware, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of how these movies have presented their nature. Like this is their thing. So if you can't take that, if you don't appreciate that, it's kind of like, why are you watching? So that would be kind of somebody's rebuttal to me. And so I get that, and I try to think of it that way. So I still can't give this a fresh, but I may bump it up to 5, giving all this hindsight into focus.
Right.
So I'm trying to justify all the things that I thought. Nick, I do have a weird bugaboos about. So Obi I was about to say Obi-Wan. Billy Loomis has this like Obi-Wan kind of moment that I just find so strange. Where he's like Sam's about to, get killed, and Jack Quaid's like over her giving the whole "I'm the big killer" speech and everything like that. And she sees him and is like, yes, Sam, do it. Like, trust in yourself. I'm like, what is this? I get it. You got the callbacks to the original and everything like that. It's got the beats for beats. It's in the same freaking house. And, you take a lot of that. And I get that. I just knee-jerk reaction. I was just like, I could not stop looking at it with a sarcastic look on my face. I was just like,
yeah, but I think going back to like how they did the legacy characters, even the original killers. I mean, let's look at this. Okay, so we're full on in the spoilers. Okay, so Sam, the original, like the heroine of this movie, is Billy Loomis's daughter from like wedlock or something like that. He had a fling before Sydney. Okay, and I had a problem with that too. Like, it's a very minor problem, because I mean, if you look at this original Scream movie, I'm gonna digress here just a second. So if you look at the original Scream movie, like all these events that happen within this Scream movie would happen within like a week, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I think somewhere in between this, they said that Billy Loomis and like Sydney were dating for like maybe a month or two, I think. So this girl should actually be a lot older than what she looks like in this movie. And it's kind of weird that she's like, she only looks like 20 something. And they say that the events of this original Scream happened in like 25 years ago. Like at the very end, they say that this is like 25 years ago, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so this girl should actually be a little bit older than what she is. That's just a little problem that I had with it.
Can we take a timeout real quick, just for a second?
So now we're back. So to kind of like sum this up, so she's Billy Loomis's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the connection to Stu Macher? Like, he's one of the original killers in this whole thing, and the way that they kind of do him dirty is that like that creepy guy in the classic car that gets stabbed. What, 10 minutes into the movie?
I think so. Yeah.
That's his only connection to this movie, which I felt kind of like, well, that's kind of odd. Why would they just kind of like mention him in passing? Because they all talk about like how his connection is he's like Stu Macher's like cousin from like marriage or something along those lines. I can't remember like exactly what it was, but it was just very weird on how that they just didn't really acknowledge Stu. And I understand that like even in the original Scream movie, he's kind of like this side character, and he's not really like the main killer and the brains of this whole operation. But it's like, can we give him a little bit more credit than this?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, and I guess it's also his house.
Yeah,
But
it is his house.
That's a hoop to jump through, right? Like, that's a coincidence. I'm trying to remember all the connections. There's so many little connections.
It is his house, and like I was telling Alex, like the whole final scene is kind of, it's not a shot for shot, but it is beat for beat for the original Scream movie. Because if you watch the last 10 minutes of both of these movies, it's pretty parallel, except for Sam going apeshit on Jack Quaid. But
yeah, right.
It is pretty much beat for beat. Like, there's little callbacks, like Gail Weathers not being there and her sister not being there. Just a lot of other kind of nods and winks to like the original, at least the original one, because I don't think that they ever really reference any of the other sequels, do they?
Not really.
The cop is in movie number 4. 2?
Well, the
girl,
she's only in number
sheriff.
4. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the sheriff is in the 4th one.
Which is in the second one.
She was?
Maybe she's in both. I know she's in the 4th one, so she might have been in the second one also.
I can't remember now. I thought she was only introduced in the 4th one. Sorry. Oh wait, no, you're right. You're right. She is in the second one.
I think
You're
she's
right.
a deputy in the second one.
She is. Yeah,
That's something I forgot in a day then, because I watched 4 after the day after 2. But anyway, so yeah, she's in it, and then they make a couple other. Well, they make a reference. Oh yeah, there's not much.
Nope, she's in 4. Who's the deputy? Sorry, go ahead.
It could be the same character, not the same actress.
No, I think it's the same actress, because you can tell. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, she looks older in this one, and I'm remembering like specific shot. So, but yeah, yeah, you didn't really have to. I think you can. It's more of an appreciation for the rest of them to watch it.
It's not.
So is she in the second one or no?
No.
Okay. So I'm not imagining.
One.
So I thought I didn't think I was imagining that, because I was like, I think I'm only seeing this person for the first time in this one. But more or less, it's like you don't really need to watch the rest other than 1. It's just more of an appreciation. They give a little bit of a nod, anything essentially that's not 3. Yeah, like they'll say, oh, this happened 10 years ago, which in 2011, that's when the 4th one takes place. So I mean, they say that, but for the most part, no, you don't really need to know specifics.
Yeah, because I don't think that they actually reference 2.
I don't think so. You're pretty set with just 1. It, like I said, it's more of an appreciation. Like it's to see where we got, like not so much of them calling back to all of them. It's really just
because I mean, if you want to make this a stretch, the only way that they reference like the 3rd one is the stab movies themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they actually reference any. And I think the fact of the matter is like, because you don't have those legacy characters on screen for very long, except for Dewey. And I think Dewey said that he's been through this, like this would be the 5th time that he's done this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it is a little like I said, realization, but other than that, I mean, you don't really reference the other ones. So I think you're right, Alex. I think if you were to see this movie, like if you skipped all the other Scream movies, I would watch the first one, because I think the heavy references are from the first one, and like there's only slight mentions, maybe Easter eggs of the other movies. But even then, it's just, it's very slight. I don't think that you would miss it if you hadn't seen the other ones. So do we have anything else to say about Scream 2022, Scream 5?
The only last thing I'll say is that nobody's favorite horror movie is The Babadook.
I don't want to talk about this. Babadook is fantastic.
Okay, so I was hoping this wasn't going to come up, because I think that Ryan was in a good way, because I think that Ryan and I would kind of defend this, because if you here's my speech to this. You told me this, and I'm not going to name names, Matt, but I'm just going to say that somebody had said that nobody's favorite horror movie is The Babadook. But in the character's defense, because somebody says this, the character Tara says this in the beginning of the movie. It's not even a spoiler. She says that her favorite movie is The Babadook, because it replays out trauma in a kind of a different way, and how we all deal with trauma in different ways. Okay, which is literally what Scream 5 is. It's trauma of what has happened before. Okay, my second defense to this is that in 1996, the slasher flicks were kind of dead. okay, and in kind of a different genre, because if you look at the generation that came during Scream, original Scream in 1996, everybody's favorite horror movie was either Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, like these random Halloween maybe. So these random slasher flicks, okay? And let's face it, in the last 10 years, 10, maybe 15 years, like horror movies have become a lot more intelligent and a lot more allegoric. If that's even a word as well. So in her defense, and Matt is, and like I said, this person is like, has their opinion, and I respect their opinion, but in this character's defense, movies now are like Get Out, The Babadook, Monster Calls, like all these kind of like allegories for different things and different mental states, and not just like some random psycho cutting up people. That's just me. Am I wrong?
No.
I mean, I just wanted to throw it out there because that was more or less a big chunk of Matt's gripes.
We love you, Matt. Just starting an argument, apparently.
Yep.
I am, not him. Okay, well, that's it for Scream. Next week is going to be Moonfall.
Woo! And Clint had also mentioned trying to do, like, if we wanted to backtrack a little bit, going back to last year and doing Nightmare Alley, doing a review of that. That's on the table as well.
Right. Nightmare Alley is going to be released on Hulu and HBO on the 1st of February, so in like a couple days. So I was thinking of doing that because I'm done with Ronald Emmerich and his like massive world-ending disaster movies.
Yeah.
So I may not even do Moonfall, but
just write it in your head over the next 30 seconds, and that's exactly what the movie will be like. Roland Emmerich's made the same, except for Independence Day, which I think is great. He's made the same movie, just over and over and over and over again.
it's just me. I was just going to sit and listen to you guys talk about Moonfall if that's what we chose to do. I'll be watching Nightmare. Yeah, and then more power to you, sir. I, however, will be watching Nightmare Alley on the 1st, or at least leading up to our discussion. But I like Fast 9. I'm opting out of this one. I'm like, no.
Or we could even talk about Jackass, because that comes out.
Let's not. Moonfall's looking great now.
Yeah, I'm opting out of that one as well. So,
all right.
But we can decide if we want to do both. If Alex, you want to talk about it, but I'm opting out of that one. So,
all right.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
No? All right. Well, then this meeting is adjourned. I just want to say thank you everyone for watching and listening, and please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Please leave us a comment. We like hearing from people. So this meeting is adjourned.